Welcome to How to Deal with and Manage Anger, Traveler's Guide to Anger Management. This is a first-time online class that the Soldier and Family Counseling Center is offering. So if you have any questions during this session that may come up, just write them down on a piece of paper, and then you are more than welcome to email them to me, Karen Linden, at karen.l.linden.civ@mail.mil. Or you may call us at 706-545-1760, and I will get to you with the actual instructor who did the in-person class. His name is Chase Morris. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy this class. What is anger? Anger is a normal emotion with a wide range of intensity, from mild irritation and frustration to rage. It is a reaction to a perceived threat to ourselves, our loved ones, our property, our self-image, or some part of our identity. Anger is a warning bell that tells us that something is. As you look at the picture, this actually shows what anger looks like so that you can notice it in another individual, so you know how to react to that individual. The eyebrows are down and together, the eyes glaring, and you have a narrowing of the lips. Anger has three components, and again, these slides have all of the information so that you can read along as we do the class. Actual in-person classes will not have this much information on the slides, but for the online version, we chose to do it this way. But anger has three components. You have the physical reactions, usually starting with a rush of adrenaline, responses such as increased heart rate, blood pressure, and tightened muscles, often known as the flight or fight response. The second component is the cognitive experience of anger, or how we perceive and think about what is making us angry. For example, we might think something that happened to us is wrong, unfair, and undeserved. And third, finally, the behavior, or the way we express our anger. There is a wide range of behavior that signals anger. We may look and sound angry, turn red, raise our voices, clam up, slam doors, storm away, or otherwise signal to others that we are angry. We may also state that we are angry and why, ask for a timeout, request an apology, or ask for something to change. Those are the It is important to learn and to recognize the many faces of anger. Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You're the one who gets burned. That is a great. Now, Maslow's hierarchy of needs does come into play with anger. Some of us may exhibit anger because one of our needs are not being met. The actual pyramid that is on the slide details that, but there are three different areas. Preserving essential needs, such as like hunger or thirst. So if you're really hungry or really thirsty, you might get angry because you need to satisfy that need. Same thing with personal worth, and then basic convictions as well. So realize that you may be angry due to those. Is anger good or bad? Well, let's look at this a little bit more in detail. Good is definitive anger toward any kind of genuine wrongdoing, mistreatment, injustice, or breaking of the laws. So if you see someone being mistreated, you may become angry. So that is considered good anger. Bad anger towards a perceived wrongdoing where no wrong occurred. It can be considered a bad anger. And it is important to realize this because a lot of individuals sometimes think that that we can't be angry, but yes, it's a natural emotion. So there are good and bad. Everyone experiences anger, and it can be healthy. It can motivate us to stand up for ourselves and correct injustices, and that's that good anger that we just talked about. When we manage our anger well, it prompts us to make positive changes in our lives and situations. However, mismanaging anger is counterproductive. It can be very unhealthy as well, and that's what brings us here for our class, in fact. Now let's get into how to actually manage that bad anger. Right here we have 4 quick takes listed on the slide. The first one basically says share the information, but you want to make sure that you're in what's called the observer mode. try not to be totally enveloped in the emotion of the anger, but rather be more in the observer mode, observing the situation and letting others know what sparked your emotion, rather than focusing everything directly on that person and attacking them. 2, gather information. What are the facts? And 3, negotiate, understanding, express your struggles, then listen to the other person's response. And that's a key in helping manage anger, is that you want to make sure it's that observer mode again, that you actually listen to the other person. And then request a change. And admitting that being angry is good or bad, whether it's good or bad, is the result of choices that you do have. Does getting mad enhance athletic performance? Some psychologists that work with Olympic athletes actually state that no, it does not enhance performance, and it can not properly managing anger can lead to a non-productive angry cycle. You have an angry emotion, you make a change in the environment, but it's met with resistance by others if not properly done, which increases confusion, which increases painful circumstances, which goes back to angry emotion, and it's a forever revolving circle if it's not managed. So let's go into actually managing anger. There are 5 ways to handle anger, so let's go into each one and see which one best suits you. Suppressing anger. Many people hesitate to admit or expose their own anger. Usually they have witnessed ill effects of this emotion, so they have resolved not to be lowered to crude or abrupt expressions of any kind. So basically they hold it in, and they hold it in for so long that they end up exploding. And this kind of leads into another class that we will have in September 19th, which is handling difficult people. These would be individuals known as the grenades. They hold it in until they explode. The second type is open aggression. Most people think of anger as open aggression comes to mind. And when you think, and what that basically means is an individual attacks another individual. It includes explosiveness, rage, intimidation, and blame. It's not necessarily limited to those types, but this is a very open, direct attack. Now, some individuals that have open aggression may say some of these things, so see if that maybe this plays into part with you, and then you know if you have open aggression. When someone confronts me about a problem, I am likely to offer a ready rebuttal. I have a history of getting caught in bickering matches with family members. I have a reputation for being strong-willed. I tend to give advice even when others have not asked for it. Do any of those sound like you? Okay, that brings us to our next quick take. How to respond to an angry person. So this is also can be utilized if you are witnessing another person that's being angry, so it doesn't in turn turn you angry. First, you want to listen to the person. The best thing you can do is hear him out and begin to understand his story. So again, get in that observer mode. Having heard that person's story, ask the angry person to repeat it. This validates them and shows that you really do care. Try to understand the other person's side of things. Express your understanding of the situation. Share any additional information that may shed light on the subject, but in a very nice, respectful manner. Confess any wrongdoing and seek to make right the wrong you have committed. By doing these steps, not only does it help the angry person you're dealing with, but it also may help you as well if you are, in fact, the angry person. The next type is passive aggression. This is one of those types of snipers. If you take the class on September 19th, you'll learn about this individual. But basically, passive aggression is usually caused by a need to have control with the least amount of accountability. This form of anger is different from suppressed anger because the person is deliberately doing something knowing it will agitate the other person involved. Do you do that to other people? Do you do things knowing that it'll really get them going? Or do you know of somebody that actually does it to you? Now it brings us to our quick take. Are you in danger of actually imploding? Let's look through these and see if any of them apply to you as warning signs. Implosion is anger is internalized, anger that is never expressed. So even though you may be, that open aggression or passive aggressive individual or suppressing anger where you hold it in, you may be internalizing the anger and you're not truly expressing it. So you're in danger of imploding. Fear of confrontation, belief that feeling or expressing anger is wrong. So maybe people feel like, oh, if I'm really angry and I express it, then that's wrong and I shouldn't do that. So you're in danger of imploding. How do you actually recognize if you are in fact in danger? You deny that you are angry. You respond by withdrawing, saying things like, I'm not angry, I'm disappointed. This can cause physiological and psychological stress. Psychological stress, as in you have breakdowns, you can be depressed, you can be anxious, things of that nature. Physiological, you become very sick. You have body ailments that you can't necessarily explain. Those are dangerous. That brings us to assertive anger. Some people may ask, do I have the right to be angry? Take away the word right and replace it with responsibility. Do I have the responsibility to be angry? If you are in a relationship that you want to succeed, there inevitably will be moments of conflict. There'll be times, maybe at work or at home, that you're going to have those angry feelings. Knowing how to properly express them is the key. So you need to learn to communicate your anger constructively. And that exactly is what this class is all about. Because being angry is not bad. It's an emotion. We're humans. We all have our different emotions. But how do we actually properly convey our anger in a constructive manner? So basically what we're talking about is, dropping anger. Releasing anger is completely different than suppressing anger. When anger is suppressed, phoniness and pretense become prominent in your relating style. However, when you release anger, you are enacting true convictions based on the fact that you have weighed your priorities and have determined that better things besides anger deserve your emotional energy. Anger communication has its place in any relationship, but loving kindness and honor and forgiveness can be given greater emphasis. So I bring you back to our previous slides of getting in that observer mode. Yes, it's okay to be angry, but how do you want to communicate that anger? You want to get in that observer mode. Remember, don't directly attack that person. Just analyze the situation of why you're angry so that you can properly attack the person. So it brings us to step number 3 in managing our anger. Let go of excessive dependencies so your anger management is inwardly directed rather than externally determined. So work on it inwardly rather than relying on things outwardly to determine whether you're happy or not happy, or angry or not. And step number 4, choose to relinquish your cravings for control in exchange for freedom. A lot of individuals will get very agitated and very, very angry because they really want control. Someone's not doing something the way that they think it should be done, and they get very, very angry. So just get in that observer mode again and just let it go and release that craving to control everything. And you'll find that your anger will be more managed and you'll be less likely to get out of control with your anger. Speaking of that control, why does control occur? Performance takes priority. Differentness is threatening. Anything that's different may be very threatening to you. Someone wants to change your environment or change the way things are done, and you start getting angry and agitated and anxious. Obligation is perceived as mandatory. So step number 5, ground yourself in truth by setting aside idealistic myths. What exactly do I mean by that? Well, let's go through a couple. Myth number 1, my history of rejection leaves me emotionally depleted. Myth number 2, God should have stopped my problems. So it's myth 3, letting go of my anger means I am defeated. Those may feel that, hey, if I let my anger go, then they're defeating me, and I can't let that be. Again, there's that control. Remember a few slides previous? That control. Gotta release that control. Release those external. Myth 4. No one understands my unique problems. And again, this kind of plays into the dealing with difficult people. We all have different personalities, and some individuals may feel like no one understands them. So that may be one reason. Myth number 5, I don't deserve to be happy. Some people constantly get wrapped up in living in the past and bad things that they may have done. They feel so guilty and they don't release those. They're not releasing those externals that we previously talked about. And so they don't feel like they can be happy. But you can be happy. You deserve to be happy. You're a wonderful, great person and you deserve happiness. Myth 6, there's nothing to look forward to anymore. So let go of all those myths. They're myths. They're not true. Anchor yourself in truth. Step 6, keep your lifestyle habits consistent with your emotional composure. So if you're, keeping physically fit, go out there and keep physically fit, it releases endorphins, those good feel chemicals in your brain. And sabotaging emotional stability. Remember that anger is linked to the preservation of personal worth, needs, and convictions. Basically what that is saying is that sometimes to be a member of the group, to get along, to get accepted, because we want to get along, we want to be accepted, we might do things that compromise our moral beliefs just to get accepted. So that in turn leads us to be angry because we're not doing what we know we should. So keep that in mind for managing your anger. Really look at what is making you angry. Some people get so overworked and consumed by work or busyness that they typically describe themselves as stress. Stress has been used as much as a vague catch-all term. It deflects us from recognizing the anger that some individuals that experience anger can also turn to substance abuse. So again, it goes back to that one step where you need to get away from the external things that you turn to with anger. One of those would be substance abuse. One thing that can help with managing your anger is actually your spiritual life. Anger management is ultimately linked to spiritual stability. When we maintain a daily relationship with God, our problems are less overwhelming. That brings us to step number 3 in managing anger. Live in humility rather than self-preoccupied pride. Again, that's getting in that observer mode and getting out of yourself. What exactly is pride? From the beginning of life, we are preoccupied with ourselves. Although you probably cannot remember when you were actually a toddler, you've seen, the terrible twos running around out there. You cried when a parent told you no. You grabbed your favorite toy if another child wanted to play with it. You ignored your parents when they attempted to give you directions. Those are pride. So one way to help manage your anger is choose humility, because pride is so closely linked to our sinful spiritual condition, hinges on finding a healthier spiritual condition. Its resolution hinges on finding a healthy spiritual alternative. Being humble. Not, I caution, not being a doormat. Okay, that can lead to that suppression, which can lead to the anger. Remember that circle. But you want to, get out of that pride. Humility is other focused. You're focused on other things. Pride's bottom line is get my need met. Meeting needs is not always wrong, of course, but it can become such an all-consuming drive that a person becomes obsessed about how others can and should respond to him or her, thus being that spark that makes the fire grow of your anger. Humility accepts limits. This talks about, not being that doormat, but, practicing, humility. To establish patterns of successful assertiveness, so be assertive, Boundaries must be recognized. First, we must establish personal boundaries, including anything from communicating simple needs to standing openly for deep convictions. Prideful struggle to maintain balance in such boundaries. They tend to communicate their needs and convictions with the assumption that no one could possibly disagree with them. They are imposing or easily offended. Also, they do not like to accept unique distinctions in others. Does humility require repressing emotions? True humility does not require any false manipulation of emotions. Going back to what we said previously, anger is an emotion. Don't suppress it. It happens. Recognize it. Recognize why you're angry. Really dig down deep to figure out why you're angry. That is a key step to managing anger. Quick take. Are you angry at yourself? Okay, so now we're digging down deep. Why really are you angry? A lot of times we find that what we think we're angry about, when we really look down deep, we're not angry for what we thought we were angry about. But are you angry at yourself? Admit your anger. Write it down if necessary. Examine guilt and shame. If your angry toward yourself is valid, if the anger toward yourself is valid, confess wrongdoing and accept forgiveness. Choose to forgive yourself. Stop beating yourself up. That brings us to step number 8. Hold your defenses to a minimum. Trust your healthy assertions. Be at peace with yourself, and then you will be able to bring peace to. So we went into some things that can cause anger, such as control, wanting to control your situation, self-sabotage, beating yourself up for things, not thinking that you have the right to be happy, being overworked or stressed, concentrating heavily on stress. One other way is identifying your fears. Fear implies hesitancy, apprehension, and doubt. It is an emotional governor that inhibits us from living full-throttle confidence. It sets the stage for dysfunctional behaviors and attitudes, but it does not always have the image we expect. Fear causes defensiveness. There are 3 categories of defense: denial, evasiveness, and reversal. So when we become defensive because of fear, we become angry. Step 9, accept the inevitability of loneliness as you struggle to be understood. Quick fact, research has shown that many women feel embarrassed and debilitated by their anger because they think it makes them look ugly. Step 10, relate to others as equals, neither elevating yourself above them nor accepting a position of inferiority. That is a great step in helping manage anger. Get in that observer mode. Try not to make yourself above or below another individual, because feeling above an individual, you're getting into the control, you get in your anger, you feel below, you feel misunderstood, not cared for, and that can lead to anger as well. So try to get in the observer mode and put everybody at the same. And that leads us to our quick take, anger agreements in marriage. There are 6 listed here, so if anybody has any anger issues in their relationships, you can take note of these. Acknowledge the reality of your anger. You can also use these for the workplace as well. It just doesn't have to be relationships, such as marriage. Agree to acknowledge anger to each other. And then the 3rd step is agree that verbal or physical explosions against the other person, they're not appropriate. So try to stay in that observer mode, stay out of the pride. Agree to seek an explanation before jumping to conclusions. That's a great one when you're dealing with anger issues, is you tend to jump to conclusions. Try to remain in that observer mode, remain calm, observe the situation, analyze it, and look for explanations. Be open to listening to the other person, because maybe they'll say something that you missed. Agree to seek resolution and reconciliation. Agree to affirm your love for each other. That we probably won't use at the workstation, but you can affirm the. Everyone feels inferior at times. We succumb to inferiority feelings. We seek false superiority. We recognize equality and minimize evaluations. Step 11. Avoid the temptation to rationalize your anger. Assume full responsibility for who you are. That is a key. One of the key in managing your anger is that assume responsibility for your actions. Don't try to rationalize and say, well, it was right that I did that. Get in observer mode, analyze the situation. Why are you truly angry? And come up with a solution. Step 12. Be accountable for your anger, ongoing growth, and open about your anger management. And that kind of goes hand in hand with step 11, assuming responsibility for who you are. So be accountable for your anger. So now that we've looked at the short term, so to speak, of anger management, of analyzing the situation, of why you're truly angry, let's look at the long term. So here's a quick take, 6 steps toward dealing with long-term anger. 1. Make a list of wrongs done to you over the years. Analyze how you responded to each event or person. If the person is no longer living or available to reconcile, release your anger toward that person. Don't hold it in. Release it. Let it go. For those that are still living, decide, do you really want to reconcile with them, or do you just want to let it go? If you decide to proceed with reconciliation, bring a trusted party, a mediator, and seek forgiveness. Reconciliation, almost always forgiveness, usually by you, but sometimes by the other party. So realize that you have to forgive yourself too. And by doing that, you will manage your anger. Step 13. Step 13. Pass along to the next generation your insights about anger. Realize that our actions do have reactions. Others do see our actions. So think of that, and that will help you with your anger management as well. And by helping our younger generations, we will help them end the cycle of anger. And that brings us to our quick take of helping kids handle anger. Some of you may have children, some of you may not. Some of you may have friends that have children, so you can take this and put it in your toolbox for future reference. You want to model a healthy behavior because our children will look towards us as a guidance of how they should be. So try to model your behavior. When you start feeling yourself welling up with anger, catch yourself immediately, get in that observer mode, and realize, how am I portraying myself? Is this the way I really want to be portrayed? Or is this the way I want others to look and emulate? Guide your child through their anger episodes. Listen to them. Take their feelings seriously. Give instructions rooted in unconditional love, positive modeling, and love. And finally, I want to leave you with this parable. It's a Cherokee teaching, actually, but it puts everything into perspective of what we went through with this whole class. There was an elder Cherokee. He was teaching his grandson about life. He said, "A fight is going on inside me," he said to the boy. "It is a terrible fight between 2 wolves. One is evil. He is angry. Envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego." He continued, "The other is good. He has joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The same fight is going on inside you and inside every other person too." The grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather, "Which wolf will win?" To which the elder Cherokee simply replied, "The one you feed." So that closes our class. If you do have any questions or concerns about anything that was covered here, just feel free to email or call. My email is karen.l.linden.civ, @mail.mil. Our phone number here is 706-545-1760. Thank you so much, and I hope that this answered and gave you some stepping stones or tools for your toolbox to help deal with anger or to help others deal with anger. The dealing with how to deal with difficult people class will be Wednesday, 19 September from 1 to 3 p.m. located in Building 2606 in Soldiers Plaza. If you are very interested in taking this class, just call us at the number provided and we can definitely get you registered. This class, you will receive a book as well as very, very detailed, useful information and tools in order to deal with those difficult people and make them not difficult anymore. We also have a stress management class that will be in September. If you're interested in any of those classes or any other classes, just feel free to give me a call and I can get you registered or give you more details of the upcoming programs, classes that we have for the Work Series program. Thank you, and I hope you all have a super day. Bye-bye.